Interrupt our ongoing studies in authoritarian sociopathy to bring you tonight's guest. You know him from What on Earth is Happening. He's a kick-ass long-form content creator, not only in the podcast world, but also those PowerPoint presentations for which he's so well known. I welcome back to Grand Theft World, Mark Passio. Mark, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well, Richard. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for staying up late for us. This is
Sure.
this. um, there was some talk about, well, the tonight's title is something that you have some knowledge in: the apotheosis of Charlie Kirk, the turning into a godlike figure and attributing things that maybe never even happened in that individual's lifetime, but it's going to be known in the future. He's going to be on the money and all this good stuff. But also the authoritarian sociopathy that we were just seeing, like the United Nations in general, and then her talk in specific saying, you know, tensions are high, and it just says to me, more money, more problems. It doesn't seem like she's had a lot of benefits. Like the average person probably has a better lifestyle and peace of mind than those celebrity kids that are popping up these days. But do you keep abreast with any of the ongoing current events, or are you just down deep doing research and making presentations?
A little bit. I mean, I don't really get into politics and political conspiracy theory much. A lot of people think that that's what I do, but has very, very little to do with my work. I really talk about occult psychology. I talk about the ability of what amounts to a cabal of ancient psychologists that have held deep psychological knowledge for countless generations, and what they are able to do to the human mind and to twist it into complete ridiculous areas of belief. So I don't spend my time analyzing endless vistas of politics and political theater. So, I commented on a recent interview that I think it's a tragic thing what happened to Charlie Kirk. No one should be executed summarily for speaking his mind. I think this has dangerous precedents regarding freedom of speech, but I don't really come down on either side of the political aisle in the left-right paradigm, because I'm a radical anarchist and not from a left-wing perspective, as many people believe anarchy actually is. Simply meaning I believe in nonviolence and a voluntary society, which is the opposite of authoritarianism. And the concept of authority is the main problem still to this day. People believing in this ridiculous, nonsensical, violent religion, and regardless of what side of the political aisle they polarize to, they still believe in this insane religion called some people get to command other people and tell them what they can and cannot do, even if they're not harming anybody else. So that is a claim of ownership. And this is what my work is to do. My work is to explain to people you believe in nonsense. And that's not always the easiest thing to do, because as soon as you tell somebody you're a member of a cult, they want to turn on you. They want to attack the messenger. They don't want to actually examine their own belief systems, their own mindset, their own psychology. No. I want to just go 100 miles an hour in the opposite direction from examination of myself. And I want to go and attack somebody who's telling me it's probably a good idea to examine what you actually believe and who implanted that belief system inside of your mind. That's what my work is to do. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I utterly, like, if anybody ever calls me that, I utterly resent the term. And it wouldn't really go well if someone called me that in person, because I lived an experience whereby I was actually in the presence of these social engineers. And they are psychopaths, they are lunatics, they are absolute vile people mentally, and they are just absolutely laughing at the dichotomy and the total polarization that they've created through dialectics in the human population. They're just pissing their pants laughing at everybody. And this is what I've been trying to explain to people. You think the real controllers of the world care whether you're having an argument of the ballistics of the event, or if you're arguing that it was a hologram, or if you're arguing that, he's been taken off to some secure location and he was never shot. It's like, I don't get into these ridiculous theories and debate them. How about asking, what are you doing to morally better yourself? How about about asking, what are you doing to help morally better other people? How are you explaining to people the actual objective difference between right behavior and wrong behavior? Are you involved in that educational outreach effort, or are you sitting trying to have debates with people over, the how of some event that we're probably never going to have enough information to analyze, let alone understand exactly what happened? This is not the point. The point is, they're creating a dichotomy and a polarization between two sides to get them to war with each other. If you can't understand the psychological dynamics and implications of that, you're not really an adult human being in the year 2025. And understand this is what all authoritarian figures want to do, because that weakens the people that they enslave, and it sends power up the chain of obedience right to them through their order followers that they're going to command and say, oh, we got to do something to manage all the resultant chaos. People aren't psychologically sophisticated enough to understand these people's operations and modus operandi, because they haven't worked enough upon themselves to gather enough information about the psychological tactics. That's what I explain to people. I explain methodologies of psychological mind control. I explain how all religion is polarization. All religion is teaching people not to be able to truly think. It's teaching them simply to believe in something that is told to them. And that goes for the whole concept of politics, the whole concept of authority, the whole concept of government. Anybody that comes down on any of the sides of any of that is just completely psychologically weak, and they've been completely played by the rulers of the world, by the actual social engineers that are Satanists, that are dark Luciferians, that are absolutely evil psychopaths. And they're laughing at everybody. They're absolutely peeing their pants, laughing at how easy it is to manipulate their slaves.
And I think the political violence is the eventual admission of their intellectual bankruptcy. But by that time, it's setting precedent for other people to take ill action. And I really want to focus in on what you're talking about in the divide and conquer psychology that the rulers have always used. Like they even had like Latin phrases, like it goes back into ancient China and the emperors there. Learning in order to conquer, they must first be divided. And there's been a lot of history of how they do that. And we can see like real time right now, they are getting people to, they're getting rid of neutral people that would sit down and ask a question and have a conversation about it. And you're left with the extremes who are willing to take violence on both sides, right? You got the formation recently of, what is it? The John Brown Gun Club. And, there are sparks being thrown all over dry pine needles. And it's like, they're trying to make a fire. How do we tamp it down and get people to put some space between their stimulus and reaction and get some thoughtful responses out?
Well, to go to one of the points that you first made there, I don't recall the Latin off the top of my head, but it's a phrase that was used in the ancient Latin world, and it goes something to the effect of, let he who would be deceived be deceived. And what that means is if you're stupid enough to fall for a scam, you deserve to be scammed. And this is what the psychological rulers of our planet, this has always been their mindset. If we can pull the wool over your eyes and you're stupid enough to fall for it, then you don't really deserve any respect or common decency shown to you because you're a stupid person. And that's essentially how they see us. They see us as dumb cattle to be completely scammed and gamed and ruled, just like a farmer would rule over a farm and all the animals on it. And this is the whole point, is what I'm trying to explain to people is if you're not bettering yourself, see, there's four essential or primary destroyers of consciousness. And this goes back to my earliest work when I first came out publicly almost 2 decades ago, and started speaking on this after I left the cult. After I actually left the social engineering cult is actually running this whole farm called Earth, and developed a conscience, or at least my conscience broke away from the limitations that it was under, and I finally said, no, I can't do this anymore, and I'm going to become a whistleblower. If people want to apply a term to me and what I do, don't apply the term conspiracy theorist. I don't deal in theories. I'm a whistleblower. That's what I am. I was in the cult, and now I'm whistleblowing about what the cult does. And they told me back then, 20 something odd years ago, you'll be banging your head against a concrete wall for the rest of your natural life until the day you die. And so far, that statement to me has not been proven untrue. That's basically what I've been doing with very little progress, with very little success, because I found it to be true what they were saying about people. People don't want to work on themselves. They don't want to see their own limitations. They don't want to see the ways that their consciousness is limited. They don't want to see their own inadequacies. They want to attack anybody that has defeated those limitations and inadequacies inside themselves, that because they're jealous of that state. They look at themselves and they hate themselves. They're self-loathing people because they've allowed the destroyers of consciousness to overtake them. And the four primary destroyers of consciousness, as is taught in just about every ancient occult tradition and any mystery tradition on this planet, the four things that absolutely degrade and destroy us internally are ignorance, apathy, cowardice, and laziness. Those are the four primary annihilators of human consciousness. And this is what the human population does not want to turn inwardly and work on to defeat. They want to stay ignorant because it's very easy to conjecture about a million theories and postulate all kinds of nonsense and garbage. It's easy to do that. That doesn't take any actual knowledge. That's like just dream something up and float it out there and see what sticks to the wall. That's what theorizing is, especially when it comes to political theater and political drama. To actually try to work on yourself and gain true self-knowledge, that's hard work. To defeat apathy within oneself, such that you're not a black-pilled, complete, I've given up and just let evil take the world because there's nothing we can do about it. That takes work to work on true care, to actually care about human rights and human freedom, and to care about suffering that is going on in the world due to actual injustice and actual authoritarian slavery, which we are under. That takes hard work to work on your heart-based intelligence, to defeat cowardice and inaction and laziness inside of you, such that you learn how to communicate, you learn how to publish, you learn how to put knowledge out into the world, you learn technology, you learn how to act in an effective capacity. You learn how to actually truly morally educate your fellow man and woman. That takes hard work and determination and a never say die attitude. That takes willpower. That takes getting up off of someone's lazy ass and actually doing right action in the world. That takes defeating the cowardice of not wanting to speak out and putting a target on yourself. That takes getting out of laziness and inaction and just wanting creature comfort and pleasure for yourself. That's all extremely difficult work to do internally. That's what wins the war for freedom, not endless speculation and conspiracy theorizing. It's inward work to build a better human being, first in the self, and then to assist others to engage in that same process. How many people are really engaged in that? It's such a tiny few. It's absolutely laughable, is my answer to that question. And that's why we're not making any headway and we're not making any progress. That's why we're losing the war for freedom, because people aren't engaging in moral education. All they want to do is spout their opinion endlessly instead of actually turning inward, looking at the limitations and inadequacies in the self and healing those things, turning inward and healing past trauma so that you're just not somebody that just wants to blurt out everything about, oh, I'll say the first thing that comes to my mind because I want to be heard and I want to be recognized. This is not about that. This is about building a world that is based in freedom because we're bettering the humans that comprise the world. There's a law in the universe, natural law, however you want to break it down, ultimately is saying one thing to the people of the universe, to anywhere you live in the 3D universe. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Freedom is reserved for good people. In order to be free, you must be good. And that means, do you understand true morality? And what are you doing to spread true morality? That's the questions that need to be asked inwardly of ourselves. And my question to everybody out in the listening audience is, and viewing audience is, how many people are actually engaged in that work instead of endlessly speculating, analyzing politics, conspiracy theorizing? You know, you're describing the patterns on the furniture of a sinking ship. That's what people in the freedom movement are doing these days. That ain't going to get you anywhere. It ain't going to get you to safety. It certainly ain't going to get you to salvation. And it just seems like no matter where I look in just about any media, people are not talking about these dynamics. They want to endlessly analyze political theater. That's not getting us anywhere. That's the analysis of patterns on furniture on a sinking ship. You got to turn inward. You got to do inner work. You got to build a better human being inwardly first, and you got to help other people become more moral and build a better being of themselves. If we're not engaged in that work, don't expect freedom. Freedom doesn't arrive or come to a people who don't do that type of work. And humanity right now is not that kind of species. We are not doing that as a whole in the aggregate, and that's why we don't have freedom, and that's why we're not going to get freedom in the long run. And that's not black-pilled. I am not a black-pilled individual. I definitively know that true freedom is possible, but it carries requirements. Just like you want to build or you want to bake the best cake imaginable. A cake my grandfather used to make that was unbelievable that he did was a pineapple upside down cake. You want to bake one of the best pineapple upside down cakes. You know what? It has requirements. There are stepwise procedures. There are ingredients. You get high quality ingredients. You follow the stepwise procedures. Now you've met the requirements. You bake it properly. You take it out at the right time. It's going to come out wonderful and taste great. There's requirements for that. Well, guess what? There's requirements for achieving a state of human freedom as well. And if you don't know what the requirements are, and if you don't meet the requirements, it doesn't just magically manifest because you want it to. That's just the raw realist perspective. I'm not a negativist. I'm not a positivist. I'm not somebody who sees the world through rose-colored glasses, and I'm not a black-pilled pessimist either. I'm a realist, and I look at the actual dynamics and the actual requirements to meet a stated objective. And if we're not meeting those requirements, it doesn't just magically manifest. A hand from above just doesn't come down and say, here, let me give you what you want just because you had good intentions. That's not how reality and the laws of nature work, unfortunately.
I've got a theory that I'm hoping that you could I just want to hear your thoughts on this. So nice to meet you, Mark. My name's Scott. Anyway, so I have this theory that like a government will move in and capitalize. It like fills the vacuum of a low morality community. So, and what I mean by that is like, for example, when you have a high trust, high morality community, like some like rural places around here, you know, it's like everybody knows each other. Everybody watches out for each other. Generally, they have shared principles and values, and they have like one sheriff that sits at the coffee shop, some like old timer, and he's like, "Hey, Fred, how you doing?" You know, that's the government. Maybe they have a stoplight in the town, and that's the amount of government they have. They have a stoplight and like some old sheriff in the town. But then when you have a community where there's no common culture, no singular shared morality, and it's just bereft of any morality, and it's just high crime everywhere, the government is in your face everywhere. So to me, that tells me that kind of what you're saying, it starts with the individual building the skills and becoming anti-fragile and just eliminating cowardice, ignorance in your own life, and then spreading outward to build a high trust communities and then scaling that. And I'm curious if that's kind of along the lines of what you were talking about.
I would 100% concur and agree that that is ultimately what we need to do. It starts from the ground up. It's not something that we need to look to leaders to do. It's something that individuals have to perform upon themselves. And you know where that really ultimately starts? It starts with good parenting. It starts with good, conscious parenting. It starts with people who are going to bring children into the world, looking into what is the actual difference between right and wrong behavior. Be an example of that for yourself, in yourself, and then pass that along to your children and instill those actual moral values in your progeny. And this is the problem. Our culture is not doing that. Worldwide, culture is not doing that because we are trying to leave it up to the institutions to raise our children, to the educational system, to the media, to the government. And all of those things are not designed to morally raise individuals. This is the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution is true moral education. And if you're going to do that, then you have to make it a primary goal to truly understand the difference between real right and wrong, not religious morality. See, this is the one of the first things I have to delineate and I have to explain, because when people hear me even say the word morality, they're so mind controlled and conditioned into immediately associating that with religion that I have to explain to them absolutely incorrect. I am not talking about any religion, because I know that the religious traditions, no matter what they are, doesn't matter what organized religion, are actually created and designed to steer people away from true objective morality. This is what the controllers of this planet set up as a system of confusion and deceit to get people not to understand what objective morality is. And so their behavior can never really come into true compliance with objective morality. That's what the controllers want. They want a million different competing systems. This is a system of dialectics, okay? It's basically setting up a complete system of moral confusion. That is what all religion is. And it doesn't matter. Again, when I say the word religion, I'm not just talking about traditional cultural religions like Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, etc. Although they are contained within that phrase, it also means all wrong systems of thinking. All wrong systems of thought that are absolutely morally incorrect and untrue. The love of money and comfort is a religion. The worship of authority is a religion. The belief in authority is a religion. The belief that government has any moral, moral legitimacy itself is a religion. Anything that you put 100% faith into and you believe axiomatically without actual logic and proof constitutes a religion. So I don't say the phrase, the term religion, just meaning traditional, regional, cultural, religious beliefs like the major world religions. I mean it as any state of consciousness, any belief system, I should say, that tries to put your consciousness into a state of limitation and confusion. And that is what all religious morality is. They all claim different things are moral and different things are immoral. So how could any of them be true? They're all conflicting belief systems regarding what objective morality is. And it's all nonsense. All of it comes down to this is just what people made up. You can definitively recognize what true objective morality is if you actually understand natural law and what are rights because they are behaviors that do not initiate harm upon others, and what behaviors are wrongdoings or transgressions against natural law rights because they actually do initiate harm upon other people. Measurable, demonstrable harm, the diminishing of a being in some capacity, not hurting someone's feelings, but actually taking something from them, diminishing the person in some respect, whether it has to do with life, rights, or property in some form. And all the wrongdoings that can be listed under natural law are in one form or another a form of theft, a form of taking something that doesn't belong to you to take from another. So again, you could look at religious systems of morality, which are there to sow the seeds of confusion and to lead people away from objective morality. And you look at something like the 7 deadly sins of the Catholic belief system. Let's look at. I always bring this up as an example. They say that the sins, the biggest sins that you could commit in this religion are pride, gluttony, sloth, lust, anger, jealousy, and greed. And none of these are a behavior. Everything I just said there is not a behavior. They're either internal states of emotion or they are states of engaging in something too much. They are a form of indulgence, self-indulgence. So not one of those 7 things, pride, gluttony, sloth, lust, anger, jealousy, and greed, is a behavior that is actually done to another individual, another being, not to the self, to another being, because that's what moral harm, immoral behavior, harm against another being is the initiation of violence upon them or theft upon their being or their property in some form. So look at the actual real transgressions against natural law, the real immoral behaviors, which is what we should be teaching everybody and teaching our children. These are the behaviors we should not ever engage in, no matter what we're offered, no matter how much we're paid, no matter how big of a paycheck, no matter what we're promised. You don't do these behaviors: murder, assault, rape, theft, trespass, coercion, and deception, all forms of theft. So, and all direct behaviors that you do against another being, upon another being. Murder, the theft of life without right. Not killing in self-defense. Murder is the theft of life without the right to do so. Assault, theft of bodily well-being, an individual's property, health in their body. Rape, theft of freedom to sexually associate with whom you will. That's coercion, that's violence, that's the theft of sexual association through someone's free will. Theft, stealing physical property, trespass, taking someone's security in their living space or in their property, coercion, taking someone's free will without right. That's what all government is. It's coercion and duress. It's the theft of someone else's free will through the belief that some people are authorities that get to command and other people are slaves that have to obey. That's coercion. That's the destruction of free will, the greatest gift of the universe. And deception. You're stealing someone's ability to make an informed choice through accurate information by willfully sowing disinformation and lies. And, that's what the deceivers do. That's what the media does. That's what the social engineers do, to throw us off course and not get us to understand the actual keys to human freedom. It all comes down to one law. As morality increases, freedom increases. As morality declines, freedom declines. Freedom and morality are directly proportional in any given society in the aggregate. That's it. That's what natural law is. And until humanity understands that and spreads that knowledge, expect slavery. Nothing else can result under universal natural law. It's an impossibility to achieve freedom in that state of ignorance of true morality. I've laid it out there in the quickest nutshell that I can for people. If people want to ignore that, they ignore it at their own peril and at their own slavery, because that's what's going to result. And it already has resulted. It's just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until we get out of the whole political drama, political theater drama, and start talking about actual objective morality and teaching that to our young and spreading that to as many people within the sound of our voice. The only message that I have for humanity is expect more slavery. That's what's coming.
You did a wonderful job of being the brevity and succinctness. You know, over the years, you're able to condense it down and not lose the power of the meaning. But if I want to play it back, it's like the way you just explained it is it's so simple. And it's almost as if they make the law artificially complex so that people can't understand it or follow it.
Yep.
And then, you know, the way you explained it, there would be no market for lawyers.
Nope.
Like there's right. So there's that part. And then the next part is government schooling is the religion of government. That's where people are learning all the morals and dogma of that system, that it's okay to pay, you know, I vote, I pay some taxes, they send some bombs, they kill some people who had nothing to do with anything. For the most part, that's gone on in the 21st century. So now from that resulting like corruption of schooling and like the corruption of education to indoctrinate people into this belief system, then they become apathetic, ignorant, like your whole list, right? And then it jumps over to them and their behavior. Now they can superficially judge things from afar with their superpowers of ignorance. They never need to get in and actually try hard or develop themselves or practice to achieve competence and proficiency, because they could just know from looking at this, you know, here's a snapshot of someone doing something. They're like, oh, they can judge it from afar. So like there's rewards for those epitomes of ignorance that tie back to like your comments on social media and current events. You know, there's a lot of people that don't even know how to think, and then they're just like, imagine this. And there's other people who don't know how to dismiss that as arbitrary and move on, and they all get caught up. And then there's people like us who are like seeing that whole traffic jam as we're moving on the country roads, making progress every day. So going back to your not black pill perspective, but like too few people have learned these teachings, right?
Yes.
I look at it like exponential function. So at the beginning, it looks like there's nothing going on. But at some point, there's going to be a critical mass because people are noticing all sorts of stuff all over the place these days, especially since COVID. A lot of people just, they woke up for no reason. They don't even know why they're red pilled, but they're just skeptical. Whereas in the past, it was like the Cassandra complex of like, you're knowing the future and no one believes it and you can't really do much about it. And you don't want to go join the bad guys who profit from it. It's like then you get that Ben Affleck meme look where you're like, right? But the civil war that they're trying to drum up, you know, the psychological pressures and triggers that they're waging on both sides to make them think that they're right and they have the right to go commit violence on the other side, which is the epitome of not freedom.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. How many people can easily be whipped into a political frenzy and furor because they've identified with political belief systems. See, all government is there to do is demoralize people. It's there to make you an obedient slave. That's it. That's all it wants. It wants compliance and obedience, and it wants demoralization. And literally, demoralization means making you a less moral person. It's not just about morale as far as how you feel, whether you feel good or not. It's the demoralization as far as your morals are concerned, because it wants you to accept something that it's completely on its face immoral, which is the claim of ownership. That's slavery. See, authority is the claim that you own another being. And anybody that says that that's not true is just completely, absolutely incorrect. If I have an authority over another being, that means they don't have free will, that their behavior must comply with my will. So their will is completely owned and controlled by me if I'm claiming authority over them. Any entity that claims authority over another being is claiming ownership over another being, because they're saying, I'm in control of your free will and your behavior. How could anybody claim that government is in slavery? There are people, see, it rewards the incompetent, it rewards the stupid, it rewards the lazy, and it punishes people who are actually contributing something and building anything and creating anything, because it says all of the fruits of your labor, or not all of them, but the percentage of the fruits of your labor that we say we are going to confiscate and take for our use, you have to turn over to us. You have to comply with that command and turn that over to us. There are people who are actually productive human beings making enough that the government says, I'm going to come in and take half or over half of what you have produced and created. If that's not the definition of slavery, then I don't know what is. You see, the question that people have to ask is, if 100% of the confiscation of the fruit of your labor constitutes slavery, what number can the confiscation of labor percentage-wise be lowered to that no longer constitutes that behavior as slavery? And if you're being honest with yourself, if you're not a liar, if you're not an immoral liar, then you would realize there's no such thing as a percentage that taxation can be lowered to become moral magically. That's only done in the gymnastics of a sick brain. That's the only place that that can be done and say, yeah, we can lower it to this amount and then it's moral. No, you can't. You're just lying to yourself. See, this is the kind of stuff that I explain to people. This is what you have to do. You have to look at yourself in a mirror. And you have to commit to not lying to yourself like an immoral piece of trash does. Because that's what immoral trash does. They just keep lying to themselves. They keep lying to everybody else. They scam other people and they even scam themselves because they're actually not even telling themselves the truth because they're self-loathing. This is what all government does. Government is a religion. The belief in authority is a religion. Politics is a religion. The worship of money is a religion. See, this is the thing: is everybody's identified. They're identified with a system, with a belief system, with an institution. That's what religion is. Identification with the non-natural, with constructs that only exist in a diseased mind. That's what all religion is. And people will just cling to it like a maggot to dead flesh because they don't know anything else and they're too cowardly to step away and out into the wilderness of thinking for oneself. That's what it all comes down to. This is what I teach. This is why I deplore the label conspiracy theorist. Just everybody out there, don't ever apply that label to me. Go apply it to some sacks of garbage that want to engage in conspiracy theorizing. I am a moral teacher of humanity, a teacher of morality to the completely degraded species called human beings, trying to rebuild them into moral individuals. That's what I do. I don't conspiracy theorize. Okay? So, and again, I'm a whistleblower for the satanic elite because I was involved with them in my youth. I got involved. They wanted to groom me to make me one of their social engineers at some point. I saw what they were doing to enslave, and I said, no, I'm out. And people say, oh, you can't leave once you get involved. You don't know what you're talking about. You've never been in that position, and I have. And I'm telling you, it doesn't just work like a mafia, even though it is a form of a mafia. But unless you know where the bodies are buried, they'll let you walk right out the door and say, don't let it hit you on the ass on the way out, boy. And if you haven't been in that position, then don't tell me what my life experience was. This is my problem with people. You know, I'm telling people what real Satanism is because I was a priest within that religion in my youth. And I'm explaining to them what the actual tenets and ideologies of Satanism actually are because I was clergy in this religion in my past and came out of it because I had a profound spiritual and moral awakening. And yes, that is possible. And no, you shouldn't just distrust somebody. You should actually listen to what they're saying. You shouldn't just blindly trust them, but you shouldn't just immediately say that disqualifies you from ever being able to speak truth. This is an imbecile mind who thinks like that. It's a child who thinks unidimensionally. You know, it's somebody who's not even playing checkers, let alone playing chess and understanding strategies that are involved in the global chessboard. These are little children who think in religious terms. Oh, this good, this bad. You were once this. You can never change. And you know what it shows? It shows how much it shows how much self-loathing they have deep in their own black hearts, because they know they're not capable of changing because they're cowards and they're weaklings and they're ignorant and they haven't studied and they haven't taken enough information into themselves and they don't know what real morality is. Essentially, it's trash looking inside themselves and saying, I know I can't change. So nobody's capable of changing. Well, that's where you're wrong. All the black-pilled, black-hearted souls out there who just want to say, no, nobody's capable of changing. You have no idea what you're talking about. Keep it to yourself, because that's who you're applying that belief system to. People, bad people, who I was once a bad person, are capable with hard work and determination and iron willpower, are capable of transcending evil and becoming a good person. And that's what I did through unimaginably hard work and hard-won knowledge. Not belief systems, not religion, knowledge. Knowledge about what was going on inside myself and my psychology, and knowledge of what the global controllers are actually doing to people, because I was actually involved with them in a first-hand, real-life capacity. So when people tell me that's ridiculous, that's nonsense, Al, you're explaining Satanism doesn't jibe with what my pastor told me. You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no first-hand experience. And don't tell me the experience that I lived in my life. That's where we're going to butt heads big time. And this is what I make no bones about it. You know, I'm telling you, I came from the other team. I have the playbook of the other team, and I'm practically throwing it in people's lap, and they want to smack it right out of your hand. They're not interested because they hate themselves. That's what it ultimately comes down to. They haven't dealt with past trauma. They haven't done any true spiritual work upon themselves, and they think suddenly you're going to manifest external change. You're going to sit in a slave chamber and rot, is what you're going to do, because you haven't done any of the internal work that needs to be done. And if you hear the anger in my voice, if you hear the frustration in my voice, you should realize that's the proper emotional response, because there are good people in this world, and they're being enslaved by the idiots of it. They're being enslaved by the people that don't want to look inward and don't want to change themselves and don't want to help others to change. All they want to do is spew nonsense because they want attention. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about the real hard spiritual work that goes on inside of an individual. And a pissant amount of humanity is doing any part of that work.
What do we do?
Post-traumatic growth.
What do we do with all the immoral scum criminals that aren't willing to change, that have no interest in changing? Can't we just deploy the National Guard to the city to take care of them?
I don't believe that's the responsibility of any government agency, because I don't believe government should exist at all. It's the responsibility of the people to clean that mess up, because who created it? The people created it. They created the mess by not morally raising their damn children. And then you want to cry to an external entity to come in and sweep the mess up that we made? If someone spills a bunch of garbage all over my kitchen floor, I'm going to tell them to clean it up, because they made the mess. They're responsible for it. They should clean it up. It shouldn't be left to somebody else to clean up. This is the situation that we are in, and people believe the most ridiculous, nonsensical answers are the solutions. Religion's never going to teach you morality. It wasn't designed to do that. Government's never going to create freedom. It wasn't designed to do that. You got to understand what the ostensible purposes of institutions are and what the true purposes of institutions are. And you're not going to learn that from the media. You're not going to learn that from school books. You're going to have to go into very deep workings of psychology and occultism to find that work, of hidden knowledge that isn't isn't meant for the average everyday Joe. It's people who did the deep psychological work as a labor of love and then published it for other people to find, that are truly driven to find that knowledge. And once again, if I say the word occult and it frightens you, you're a child. You know, it's like all occult means is hidden knowledge. That's it. And why would it be hidden? Because people at high levels of power don't want people who are slaves to learn the knowledge that they know, because they want to keep leveraging that knowledge as a power differential. And The people who believe in all the nonsense of what the institutions are designed to do. You believe the media is telling you the truth. You believe the government's there to protect your rights. You believe the pharmaceutical cartels care about your damn health. You believe the educational system cares about your edification and education. You're out of your mind. You're out of your gourd. You are gone. You're a gone goose if that's what people think and believe. It's a naive 2-year-old with pooped diapers waddling around. That's literally what it is. And that's most of humanity. Let's face it. That's what most of this species is. They're naive children who hate themselves, who want to believe any of the nonsense that all the institutions have told them. And what I'm trying to do is explain to people what the real purposes of these institutions are. Government's there to strip you of your rights and make you an obedient slave. The pharmaceutical cartels want you sick. The medical industry want you sick so they can keep making endless profit off your illness. They're not trying to cure disease. I worked in a medical establishment. I worked in the University of Pennsylvania's School of Medicine Research Division in biomedical research. I literally heard department heads, because I was ahead of technology, ahead of certain groups of technology. I was the lead technical specialist who did desktop support for hematology, oncology, cardiology, rheumatology, et cetera, in their research laboratories. So I have a background in that as well, in technology, in working inside the medical field, hearing what doctors and researchers were saying. They were openly saying, we don't look for cures. We're not here to cure anything. We're looking for treatments that can be sold to people. They were just blatantly saying it out in the open. These people don't care about you. Government doesn't care about you. It's there to control you. The educational system is not there to make you smart. It's there to make you dumb, so you can't actually engage in true critical thinking and logic through the trivium. They don't want to teach you the trivium method of grammar, logic, and rhetoric, of gathering information in an eclectic capacity so you can pour through it over many, many, many man-hours of time and then come to a logical understanding through logical transforms and weeding out logical inconsistencies so that you could truly understand what the data set means and then act upon it rightly by disseminating what it actually means to other people. They don't want you engaged in that process. That's why the trivium was stripped from the educational model. And people don't even know this. They don't know it because they're dumb, naive children who haven't grown up, who haven't worked upon themselves, who have not worked on their internal traumas, who have not really truly gotten rid of their self-loathing. And that's why they want to stay slaves and stay in religious thought. It's people who hate themselves, who somehow believe the sick notion that the universe was created to torture us. I accept that there's a creator. I don't accept it. I know it. Factually, the universe is not some clockwork dead mechanism of matter. If you believe that, I got a couple of bridges in New York City to sell you. This is all dynamically, intelligently driven by an absolutely, completely unimaginably powerful force. And I'm not here to tell you what that is. I'm not here to push religion on somebody. I'm here to tell you that it structured all of the order and laws of the universe. That's what I know it did. And we're governed by those laws. We're not exempt from them behaviorally. They not only govern the laws of matter, they govern the laws of behavior. That's why if you behave one way, you get enslaved. If you keep condoning for immorality, you get enslaved. That's what humanity has done. We've behaved immorally and we've condoned immoral behavior. You know what happens to a species that does that in the aggregate over thousands of years? Slavery. That's where we're at. If you want to get out of that, you got to change the behavior, because then the natural law gives you the opposite result. It's so simple, it's almost stupid that this would have to be explained. And this is what the actual laws of the creator are, not what nonsensical religion tells you not to eat meat on this day of the week and do this and that, whatever. Wear these kind of clothes here, but not here. And it's just nonsense. And people can't see it as nonsense because they're so indoctrinated into it by their parents, by their family, by their teachers, by their clergy. It's just dumb people perpetuating stupidity instead of actually learning what the laws of the creator actually are. This is why I'm angry. This is why I'm frustrated. I don't enjoy this. This is not what I want to do. I want to live my life in freedom and have a decent time while I'm in a fucking body. Pardon my language. You know, that's what I want for myself, and that's what I want for everybody else. It's very simple. I don't want self-inflicted suffering perpetuated constantly in our species. There's a way to do that. There's an answer. There's a way out. You got to think differently. You got to stop believing in total crap that's been fed to us, and we put it up on a pedestal like we put our parents up on a pedestal. So many people, their parents have completely screwed them up, taught them totally immoral things, and oh, they're such good people. I put them up on a pedestal. I practically worship them. It's like, why do people do that just because you're biologically related? You know, and I'm not knocking the family or the family system. I think that has to be strong, but it's got to be based in true morality and truth. You know, the whole point is, how many people's parents screwed them up by telling them things that further traumatized them, that they told them, oh, this isn't for you. You're not here to do great things. You're here to be mediocre. You're here to go do manual labor. You're not that smart. You're not that talented. Don't try to aim too high. That parents teach people to miss the target all the time, to not even set the bar high and aim for a worthy pursuit or cause. And then we want to say, oh, we should just put them up on a pedestal because we're biologically related to them. This is nonsense. This is how all the nonsense gets perpetuated, and the trauma gets perpetuated. The trauma cycle gets perpetuated down to the next generation after generation after generation. We got to break that cycle of abuse and ignorance and laziness and cowardice. And that's carried on by the family system. Absolutely. It's carried on by religion. It's carried on by educational systems. It's carried on by all the institutions. All of the institutions are fraudulent. Not some of them, all of them. All of them. And people have to stop identifying with them. They have to stop their personal ego identification with those entities and institutions. And that's why we're not freeing ourselves, because people are latched onto those things. And when you latch onto what's incorrect, see, this is why right, correct, leads to right morally. Wrong, incorrect leads to wrong behavior. It's not an accident that we use those words for different concepts. You're right. Well, you're correct. You did what was right. You did what was moral. You're wrong. You're incorrect. You just did what was wrong, what was immoral. There's no accident that those words are the same, because what is correct leads to what is morally right, and what is incorrect leads to what is morally wrong. This is why being correct is so important. This is why learning how to think is so important. You can't just arbitrarily choose things based on your feelings and your emotions. You have to be able to think logically and know how to go about truth discovery through the trivia methodology. And that's why they've removed it from the education system, to keep people dumb so that they can enslave them. You know, I mean, I don't know what else I can even really say if people don't get what I've talked about. If you can't really comprehend what I've talked about, people just need to really look inward and look in a damn mirror and ask the question, what the hell is wrong with you? Not me, not Mark Passio. Mark Passio's fine. Mark Passio, as a former Satanist who came out of it and actually became a moral person and desisted in his former evil ways, I'm going to be fine. You don't need to worry about me. People need to look in the mirror and worry about themselves.
You got to get that URL too to go along with what on earth is happening. Get what the hell is wrong with you.com.
Yeah, exactly. Redirect
I
it.
thought you were going to tell them to get markpassiosfine.com. That's a good one too. Mm-hmm. Mark, you speak with great parrhesia, and it's welcome, and I can tell you care. And we've addressed those who won't get it. Let's talk to those who do get it. When are you hosting How to Be the True Media? When are you doing the solutions part of it? And also, side question, have you ever done like stand-up? Because you are so close to having like a Carlin-esque stand-up act, because you have enough knowledge to make fun of the stuff, and that's all that's necessary.
Richard, this is why I love you. Because, yeah, I mean, I would have loved to do other things with my existence. Comedy might have been one of them. I joke around with people, but like, I loved watching like old painting shows, right? Like after pro wrestling on Saturday afternoon, like watching painting with Bob Ross or whatever.
For sure, dude. Yeah.
I had the paint set and all. I wanted to become an artist. And maybe I could have if I really developed those skills. That never materialized. Always say
this isn't Bob Ross style, but this
nice.
is. I try to get it on. It's Picasso during his blue period.
See, that's another thing, Richard. You never cease to amaze me with your talent, man. You're a man of many talents. I'll tell you. I heard you sing at Porkfest. Damn, man. I mean, you were singing some Doors songs. It was like you got a hell of a voice.
I just learned that last summer. For 51 years, I was scared to be in karaoke.
Unbelievable.
Position. It would have been like one of my worst fears. There was a time, not like probably 18 months ago, you could have said, "Hey, $10,000 for charity. We want you to sing karaoke," and I'd be like, "I'm not even going to try. I know I can't do it."
Well, I was highly impressed, I got to say.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. And I was more of an artist of the painting variety before I started getting into like all this history and reading. And it's like I could learn about the people trying to take away our freedom forever, or I could, follow my passions as an artist. I like to think that these shows each week are my form of like practical conceptual art, because I'm bringing the history all together and doing it live.
This is absolutely a form of artistic creation, no question about it. So, I liked sports. I played baseball and football when I was young. Not the greatest at them, but appreciated them. I got very good at bowling. With very little practice. It just came naturally to me. I just got really good at it. Like I got to like throwing like in the 260s at some point. Wow. I threw it. My high game is a 265. I mean, that's like with very little practice. And I'm not saying that to brag. Like I just never was like, I'm going to become a bowler and go to the lanes every day. That's like going with friends once a week, going outside and like lighting up some cannabis and going onto the lanes and like just having fun, so imagine if I took it seriously, probably could have been a great. There's many things I would have liked to have done.
When you're in those modalities, when you're doing that thing, you feel freedom, because that's what I feel from the karaoke.
You get in the zone
for a couple minutes. Yeah, you get in that. All right, so how to be the true media? Are you teaching it again this year?
Yeah, regarding solutions, once you understand what the real solution is, which is true morality, which is true objective morality, and understanding how natural law works to bring us the results and the consequences of our free will behavioral decisions, you have to communicate that to other people. So what I teach is the technology of how that is done. You want to become a podcaster, you want to make videos and documentaries, you want to publish books. Like I'm going to show you in this tech seminar from the very beginning of how to use an operating system all the way through to how to build a website. So this is what I do. It's called howtobecomethitruemedia.com, because we need truth tellers in the new media, right? We don't have to just be the new media. We have to be the true media, the truth telling media. And this course runs 23 weeks in succession, 1 day a week, 1 night a week. And it's held on Telegram. And I basically teach this course over a 6-month period from January through June every year. You can check it out, howtobecomethitruemedia.com. In addition to that, I'm going to be hosting a seminar on internal work. The spiritual work that actually has to be done to change ourselves inwardly, not looking at the external, dynamics. I do that through whatonearthishappening.com. I explain to people what's really going on in the world, the methodologies of control that are being employed against us, talk about some of the occult factors and, ideologies that are out there, teach true positive occultism, what I refer to as the body of knowledge known as the light occult knowledge, which is how natural law actually functions in our lives, what we have to do to actually change ourselves if we want to see change manifested in the outer world around us. So this seminar is called Mark Passio's Shadow Work Seminar. And it is not, if you've heard this term before, if you're expecting it to be anything like New Age variants of so-called shadow work, it is absolutely not that. This is very deep, hard questions that we must pose to ourselves and then work through how we have already been, how we have been conditioned, what we have been taught that is false and untrue, and what you got to say to yourself to get your mind right, to recondition and reprogram the subconscious. And then what do you have to do to actually get involved and take right real world action? That's the seminar coming up in November 22nd of this year, which is, I guess, less than 2 months away now. And enrollment is still open. You can enroll at whatonearthishappening.com. It's called Mark Passio's Shadow Work Seminar. This is probably going to be the most profound internal spiritual presentation that I have ever delivered. You were there and filmed and edited my natural law seminar, which is considered my magnum opus. That's considered the best body of work that I have ever produced. And it is the most important body of work. And I thank you for being there and doing that work to help me assist getting that out to the public, Richard. This is going to be a lot different because it's really going to be about the individual and how they must look at themselves inwardly in order to change into the kind of person they have to become to really be a champion of true freedom. So it's going to be some difficult work for a lot of people engaging it. And once again, I just have to state emphatically, it is not New Age shadow work. This is real occult shadow work that I will be teaching and showing a methodology for.
Well, Mark, you've been an evangelist for freedom over the years, and I consider you a fellow abolitionist of the 21st century variety. I think you're a whistleblowing warrior, not a conspiracy theorist. And I appreciate you making so much time in your schedule tonight to share your wisdom, to elucidate these ideas for the audience. And I know a lot of our audience was shaking their head the whole time, agreeing with you and not saying, I don't get what he's talking about. So
excellent. Richard, thank you so much. I consider you a highly respected peer. I love what you do. Please continue. And thank you for all of your efforts, my friend.
Well, thank you. And we'll talk to each other soon. Hopefully we'll do another in real life event. We'll have an occasion to get together.
Look forward to it.
All right. See you soon, Mark. Peace.
Take care.